Hello friends! Today we have a review of Black Myth Wukong. This game has made a splash in the gaming industry. It has a fairly high number of sales, and there has been a lot of talk around the game. Some people admire the game, some say that it is an absolute copy of another game. I'm not going to name it, everyone probably understands what I'm talking about. But as always, I want to put aside all the nuances surrounding the game and give a review directly as a user who bought and downloaded this game and knows absolutely nothing about it. The game is based on the classic Chinese novel Journey to the West and tells the story of the search for the relics of the Monkey King Sun Wukong after the events of the novel. Does this information change anything for me personally? Absolutely nothing. I expect a high-quality picture and an interesting story. I don't need anything else. Briefly about what we have. In Black Myth Wukong, you have to play as a humanoid ape, Destiny's destined, traveling the world in search of 6 relics necessary for the release of Sun Wukong. To do this, you need to defeat numerous enemies and upgrade your weapons and equipment. The main weapon of the Destined One is a staff that can be used to perform various types of attacks. By spending the concentration reserve, the Destined One launches enhanced attacks and performs acrobatic tricks. He is also able to dodge enemy attacks. Some enemies have armor that must first be neutralized by breaking it or immobilizing the enemy. The Appointed One can rest at the altar to replenish his health after being wounded. But in this case, all the usual enemies around will be revived, with the exception of bosses and plot-important characters. When the hero visits temples, he can also redistribute skill points. This allows you to experiment with different playstyles. In the event of death, the assigned ends up in the nearest temple without any penalties. Each location additionally has several meditation points, where the hero will receive points to improve his skills. By collecting herbs and other useful things, the hero creates medicines and potions to temporarily increase his characteristics. After defeating the bosses, the Designated One can use their spirit to give his flask additional magical properties. So, let's start subtracting and then adding points to this game. I haven't read the entire Journey to the West novel. There seem to be 4 volumes. The first 2 were enough for me to realize that it was too boring for me. But even in these 2 books, our hero was able to talk, sometimes tried to joke, and was not such a silent monkey as in the game. At first, I expected my monkey to speak, but it never happened. So, I really missed some funny lines from the main character. For this, I give this game the first -1 point. The next thing I didn't like was the monkey's ability to jump, or rather, the lack of it. Really? It's a monkey, albeit a humanoid one. It should definitely be able to jump high and well, jump over various obstacles. Yes, the mechanics of jumping are quite good when turning, but in a normal state, the monkey can stumble and have great difficulty overcoming a small barrier. And note that if you try to jump over obstacles, it doesn't work. If you just run forward, the game mechanics carry the character over the obstacle by itself. For a long time, I couldn't understand why I couldn't jump over. In some places, I even decided that it was another invisible barrier that I could not go beyond. So, -1 point for such clumsiness. The third disadvantage really pissed me off for most of the game. It's the lack of quick dressing of sets, and no possibility to save your sets at all. In any game where there are different clothes, different equipment items, it should be possible to save your own sets, and then put them on with 1 click. This made me very angry, especially during the New Game Plus, which I played mainly in the Spellbinder build, and had to constantly change all the necessary things for it. Every time I had to reactivate a skill, I had to go through all the things one by one. This is an unnecessary thing that delayed the process of preparing for the game. This kind of thing makes me very nervous. I like comfort in the game, which does not distract from the game itself. For this, I give a healthy -1 point. I consider the disadvantages of the game to be complete. There are many more nuances if you nitpick, but I really liked everything else, so I'll just forget some of the little things and enjoy the game. So let's analyze what I liked. The graphical design of the game is just space. It's really a very beautiful game. I am delighted with the graphics, the landscapes, the animation, and everything that happens around the character. Maybe later, I'll dedicate a separate video and show the top 5 most beautiful places in the game that really struck me to the core. So, for such a beautiful graphic design, I give the game +2 points at once. Many people say that the game is a big corridor. I agree. Especially at the beginning, if you want to go somewhere else, you will be stopped by an invisible barrier. Behind it, everything is beautiful and holistic, but you can't go there. But despite this, the corridor of this game is so wide that it looks more like a maze. You can really get lost here, and at the beginning, when you don't know all the locations of the game, it's hard to find the right way. The area where the events take place is really big, and it encourages you to explore and find different nuances. For this, I give the game +1 point. So, very quickly, my score brought the game back to 0 points. Then only the pluses began to accumulate. Despite the fact that this game was called Boss Rush, there is a story in the game. It's not as developed and varied, but for this genre, it's really something nice. I give the game +1 point for the storyline. The game will get another point for beautiful cutscenes. They are varied and can be skipped if you want. Between chapters, you generally watch a cartoon that tells the background of what happened to you in the game. It is interesting. Every time I approached a new boss, I watched these scenes and enjoyed them. It's like a separate movie, where you are happy with what you see. I don't know about anyone else, but it was interesting for me. And I give +1 point for the fact that the developers tried to make these scenes so enjoyable. So, the main task of the character in the game is to destroy various bosses. They are so different, so varied, that it's really wow. Each boss is unique and unconventional. Some are actually super unconventional, and that's cool. Each boss needs its own tactics. I had a lot of fun getting to know each boss and their attacks. I won't hide the fact that some bosses really pissed me off to the max, but that's because I couldn't kill them for a long time. I really liked the alternation of difficult bosses with easy and super difficult ones. This mix always left me wondering what the next boss would be like and how the fight would go. Once again, there are a lot of bosses in the game. They are all different, and it is a very interesting process to learn them. That's why I give +1 point for this variety. Some people criticize the developers for not having difficulty settings in the game, but I think it's a plus. You need to approach each boss in a different way to win, and it keeps you interested in the game. If everything was easy and monotonous, I would probably quit the game after a couple of days. The game gives an unforgettable experience. +1 point for that. Special thanks to the people who worked on the music. The sound effects are very atmospheric. The music is pleasant and not annoying. Every movement, every punch, every event is accompanied by sounds that immerse you in the game as much as possible. It's cool. I love it when the sound effects in a game are at such a high level and they are very diverse. Really very diverse. Even the background music in different scenes gives you different feelings. Definitely +1 point. An interesting feature is the ability to go through a new cycle of the game. I understand that such games don't do it any other way. But it's always a plus for this genre, so I won't get tired of giving it a +1 point for that. When I completed the game, I wanted to go through the bosses that were difficult at the beginning with new skills, and I gave +1 point for this opportunity. What I don't like is the boring farming of money or experience in a game. When you're sitting in the same location for hours on end, doing the same thing to get more coins or experience. It is very good that this is not the case in this game. The main currency is will. It is gained as you progress through the game. It is enough for any purchases, you just can't spend any more. For those who wish, you can farm experience, but it is completely optional and not a necessity. Therefore, +1 point for this. The next bonus is a variable approach to talent allocation. You have no restrictions or penalties. I scattered sparks, then changed them for another boss. There are a lot of talents. In total, you need 342 sparks to select all the talents. This is a lot. Usually a player will only have this many in a new game +3. It seems that there are a lot of talents, but they are different and you change them as needed. This adds variety to the game. It also allows you to find a better tactical approach to each difficult boss. +1 point for this variability. Our character has magical powers. I liked that they are revealed gradually, and you can't use them all at once. Like some classic wizard who has more than 100 spells in his arsenal, and you can just get confused about what to use and when. Our monkey is not just that, he is a magical monkey, but he is limited in his magic. So you can focus more on staff attacks, and the magic skills are just a big help. I really liked this balance of magic and normal attacks in the game. That's why I give it +1 point. I have already mentioned a beautiful and diverse world, but here I would like to emphasize that each chapter is like a separate world. First, a forest, then a stone desert, then snowy mountains, then a cave with spiders, then a fiery volcanic crater, and finally, a beautiful forest again. This diversity adds interest to the game. It does not let you get bored. I give +1 point for such a small feature in the game. Speaking of individual chapters, each chapter has its own secret locations. You can pass by them, or you can get inside and explore. It was interesting to find these locations, open them and find new enemies inside. I give +1 point for that. In addition to the main storyline, you can complete additional quests in the game. Usually they are keys to secret locations and new bosses, but sometimes they give you interesting bonuses in the form of new transformations or new skills. Probably because I was satisfied with the atmosphere of the game, I was interested in completing all the quests and not passing by any of them. So, +1 point. Since some battles required dozens of attempts, it would be very bad if the character received some kind of punishment for each death. For example, level experience would be deducted or something. I spent as much as 10 hours of continuous attempts on some bosses, so I liked that there was no penalty for death. It didn't put any pressure on me to try again. I just kept trying until I got it right. +1 point. Although the game has a corridor type, all boss battles are very individual. Each player goes through them in their own way. And what happens in the battle depends a lot on how smart you are and how agile you are. I also liked this. Even going through new cycles of the game, each battle was different with the same opponents. Everything is very individual, and each player can find and use their own tactics. That's why I give you +1 point for that. It is interesting that the developers have not only hidden secret locations, but also a hidden ending to the game. You can get to the end credits in the standard way, or you can find the hidden ending and get a different result. This is very cool. I love it when a game has several different endings. If you don't understand your ending, I'll give you a quick hint. If your character is put through a hoop and becomes the new Sun Wukong, it's a bad ending to the game. And if you defeat Erlang, and after the final battle with the stone monkey, they refuse to put the hoop on you, it means that you have broken free of the restrictions that hold you back and overcome the curse of the stone monkey. This is a good ending. For different endings and the opportunity to see all the options, I give +1 point. If you think that my Black Myth Wukong benefits are over, you're wrong. I enjoyed not only the game, but also the experience. Is that possible? Absolutely. The atmosphere around me is mesmerizing. For a long time, I felt like a child in a zoo. Only here, the animals are strange, and sometimes the musicians are headless. The atmosphere of the game is fascinating at every step, so I give it +1 point. I like different achievements in games, so I guess I try to master all the content of the game. I like to collect all the chests, open all the places, and so on. There are 81 achievements in Black Myth Wukong. Each achievement is marked with a label, and you can always see what percentage of players from all over the world have this achievement. It's really cool. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I really like game achievements. I give it +1 point for that. I almost forgot. Transformations into different beings. That is, transforms. There are only 10 of them in the game, each interesting in its own way. There are those that are used all the time. Others are only interesting to look at, but having the ability to turn into something else during a battle is definitely +1 point. Like most games, you need to run around a lot in different locations to collect all the achievements. That's why the quick teleport between altars is a good idea. But most of all, I liked the ability to teleport to the last altar or directly to Zodiac Village. Fast movements significantly reduce the time spent running between locations. I give +1 point for this, as always. I will give another point for the extraordinary approach to the creation of the 6th chapter. We are used to certain corridors in each chapter, which are revealed to us gradually. But the 6th chapter is something else. The whole location is open at once, and our monkey flies on a cloud to move around it. Wow, it was unexpected. This is again a revolution of the usual game mode. I'm happy with it, +1 point. As for me, the game turned out to be quite diverse, with its own characteristics, within a certain genre. And even though it is similar to some other games, some say even a copy, what was happening on the screen is pleasing to the eye. So I will give the developers just +2 points for such a great game. This is only because I spent quite a bit of time in the game, and it was interesting. As a result, this game received 22 points. All the games I play and review can be found in separate playlists, and for those who are interested, I have created a publication that is constantly updated. There's a list of games with the number of points they received from me personally, so the higher the score, the more I liked the game. Everything is purely individual. I do not claim to be true. Whether or not to buy this game is your personal decision. If you're interested in my review of a game, please leave a comment. With that, I wish you all good health, and I'll see you in other reviews.